Mangwanani Muria Africa, and welcome to Africa Good Morning on this beautiful Friday morning. You're joined by Diana Master and Glenora Shipura. Later on, we're going to be crossing over to Zambia to speak to our correspondent, Mr. Mike Sichila, to give us the latest news on the ground.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's finally Friday.
It's finally Friday.
You don't seem excited.
I am actually. I am very excited. I've pushed this whole week.
Yes. I
Yes.
see. Well, getting right into today. Today is Origami Day. The art of folding paper arose in several places throughout the world, including Europe and China and Japan. It has accompanied traditions and celebrations of every kind, including funerals, birthdays, and more. Let's take a look at this video on just that. Today is the 11th of November. Let's get into our top stories. Prison break. 23 inmates escape from Moroni prison, Comoros. 23 inmates escaped from the prison of Moroni, the capital of the Indian Ocean archipelago in Comoros, on Wednesday evening in circumstances that are yet to be known, according to the Public Prosecutor's Office and the Penitentiary Administration. According to reports, 6 were quickly found. The 17 escapees who remain wanted have all been identified, and an investigation has been opened to determine the circumstances of this escape, the Public Prosecutor Ali Muhammad Junaid told AFP. What is certain is that the prisoners were able to escape without outside intervention, he said. According to the prison services, the inmates would have taken advantage of a transfer from the yard to their dormitories to take the powder, but the modus operandi remains to be determined. The prisoners complain of too much promiscuity in the dormitories, of the lack of water, which affects the whole archipelago, but also of the irregularity of the food rations, said to AFP a member of the family of a prisoner reached by phone. Now, the Moroni prison was built in the 1960s to accommodate 80 people. It now holds some 340, according to the prison administration.
Now moving over, Twitter lays off staff at its only office in Ghana. Twitter has fired nearly all of its staff in Ghana, which was home to its only office in Africa. The firm is reorganizing its operations as a result of a need to reduce costs, read Twitter's email seen by the BBC. The layoffs were part of a global staff call introduced by new boss Elon Musk. The Ghana office was open to some fanfare last year, with the company saying it wanted to be more immersed in African conversations. An anonymous employee told the BBC no redundancy was offered, unlike in some other countries, but their normal salary would be paid until the end of the contract at the beginning of next month, they said. On the 4th of November, Elon Musk tweeted that employees had been offered 3 months severance after news started to break globally about mass staff layoffs. However, it was not clear what office he was referring to. It's very insulting, the anonymous Ghana employee said. Under local law, aid staff must be paid redundancy and should be given 3 months' notice, as opposed to under a month in the case of the Ghanaian employees who have been told their last day of employment would be the 4th of December 2022. Ghana staff were sent messages about the end of their contracts to their personal accounts after being denied access to work emails. There were just under 20 people employed in Ghana's Twitter office who were working in various roles, from curation and marketing to editorial.
In our next story, Kenya, South Africa to begin mutual visa-free system in January. The presidents of South Africa and Kenya say they have resolved a long-standing visa dispute, and Kenyans will be able to visit South Africa visa-free for up to 90 days in a calendar year. South Africans already get free visas on arrival in Kenya, while Kenyans were charged and required to provide proof of sufficient funds and return flight tickets. The new agreement, which is set to take effect on January 1st, was announced during the first official trip of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to Kenya on Wednesday. Meanwhile, he and his Kenyan counterpart, William Ruto, also directed their trade ministers to address barriers that limit trade between the two countries, which are among the strongest economies in Africa. The duo also praised the Ethiopia peace agreement signed last week in South Africa and brokered by the African Union. They appealed to the parties to ensure full implementation of the agreement to reach a lasting political settlement.
Now in our next story, Chad's two main opposition figures stay in hiding for safety. The leaders of Chad's main opposition groups said on Wednesday that they had been forced into hiding over fears for their safety following a deadly crackdown on anti-junta demonstrations. Success Masra, head of the Transformers Party, told AFP he was in another country because he was wanted by the presidential guard. Max Longa of Wakit Tama said he was hiding somewhere within the country to avoid arrest. Both opposition figures have accused the junta of extrajudicial killings and mass arrests as they suppressed protests over delayed elections. Officially, around 50 people died when security forces opened fire on the demonstrators in the capital N'Djamena and several other cities last month. But opposition groups say the actual toll was much higher, with unarmed civilians massacred, at least 300 people wounded and hundreds more arrested. Masra and Loanga said their groups have called on the International Criminal Court in The Hague to investigate alleged crimes against humanity. The African Union Commission has condemned the violent repression, while Amnesty International said that a child was among the several dozen killed by the authorities' use of excessive force.
Swinging over to the Rainbow Nation, the last apartheid leader de Klerk Nobel Prize stolen in South Africa. The Nobel Peace Prize medal awarded to South Africa's last apartheid president, Frederick Willem de Klerk, was stolen from his Cape Town home 6 months ago, his foundation revealed on Wednesday. He received the prize in 1993 alongside anti-apartheid icon Nelson Mandela for his role in ushering South Africa into democracy. The 18-carat medal made of recycled gold was stolen from his home in a burglary in April. I can confirm that the Nobel Peace Prize belonging to de Klerk was stolen from his home earlier this year, Brenda Steyn, the foundation's legacy manager, told AFP. The former president died in November last year, aged 85, after being diagnosed with cancer. Mandela and de Klerk were jointly awarded the prestigious Laurel in Oslo for their work for the peaceful termination of the apartheid regime and for laying the foundations for a new democratic South Africa. De Klerk led South Africa's transition from white minority rule to the first multiracial elections in 1994 after freeing Mandela from prison in 1990. Mandela then became South Africa's first black president after his African National Congress party won the first democratic election.
Now closing up our top stories, Kenya to spend $37 million on sending forces to Congo. Kenya's parliament has approved the deployment of nearly 1,000 troops for a new regional force in eastern Congo amid questions about the $37 million cost for the first 6 months of the mission. A parliament committee report says the money will be spent on equipment, allowances and operations for the more than 900 troops joining the East African Community Regional Force that will support Congolese forces against armed groups. Opposition lawmakers questioned why Kenya is spending so much money on the regional mission while the country faces its own security issues. Kenya also faces rising inflation and high public debt. Kenyan President William Ruto last week called the mission necessary and urgent for regional security. Violence by armed groups in eastern Congo has led to a diplomatic crisis between Congo and neighboring Rwanda, which accuse each other of backing certain groups. The Kenyan forces will be based in Goma, eastern Congo's largest city. The regional force, agreed upon by heads of state in June and led by a Kenyan commander, also has 2 battalions from Uganda, 2 from Burundi and 1 from South Sudan. There is a possibility that international financing may be secured for the mission, the committee report said.
After the break, we cross over to Zambia. Do stay with us.
My.NA Property Show provides viewers with the best in-class content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest property-related products and services. If you would like to feature your brand or your campaign on this platform, contact My.NA at synergy.com.na. My.NA Properties, more than just a roof over your head.
The time has come for us to now cross over to Zambia to speak to Mr. Mike Sichula to give us the latest news on the ground. Good morning, Mr. Sichula. Mr. Sichula, we seem to be having a little trouble hearing you. We'll try again. Good morning, Mr. Sichula. We seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties. We'll quickly go to an ad break and try again after the break.
The Regional Review brings you news, views, and interviews from NMH correspondents from across the country. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact regional@synergy.com.na.
Sport Wrap is a daily show focusing on all sport news and current affairs. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact sportwrap@synergy.com.na. But even the ad.
While we sort out some technical difficulties, let's take a look at the weather.
Now we know you're waiting for Mr. Sichula to bring us the latest news on the ground, so we're going to try again. Good morning, Mr. Sichula.
Africa, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I have to say, it's great to be able to hear you. Now, starting off, a delegation from the International Monetary Fund is next month expected to visit Zambia to assess the utilization of a $1.3 billion bailout package. Could you please tell us about this?
Yes, the IMF is expected to be in Zambia next month to assess the performance and the utilization of the 1.3 billion United States dollars bailout package. So the bailout package is being given 3 installments. The first installment of $185 million was given to Zambia, which Zambia is currently using. So according to the Minister of Finance, Permanent Secretary, he said, Mr. Mokulitu, he says that this will assess how Zambia has performed since it received the first installment, and also that the staff visit will review how Zambia has complied to the guidelines and how it is implementing its debt restructuring program. So this is something that a number of stakeholders in Zambia are expecting, if whether the IMF is going to continue for the second and third installments based on the guidelines and how the implementing the IMF bailout package is going so far.
Now, getting into your next story, I understand that in line with the free education policy, the government has approved to scrape off examination fees for learners sitting for their 2022 examinations. This does sound like a welcome relief for the students and the parents. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, the government has implemented a free education policy. So in order to stop learners from not paying examination fees, the government has released over 68 million kwacha, which is close to 3 million United States dollars, to ensure that the schools do not charge learners examination fees. So this money is going towards examination requisites, such as buying extra furniture and the like. And a number of grade 12 learners who are sitting for exams, some of them sometimes they will miss writing exams because their parents have failed to pay their examination fees. But this is not the case anymore. All the eligible grade 12 learners are going to be writing their exams without paying a single examination fee, which is something the government says is in line with the provision of a free education, to ensure that more people get into education. They qualify from secondary into tertiary education.
That is some good news indeed. Now let's move on over to sport. 23 swimmers have been selected to represent Zambia at the Kana Zone 3 Swimming Championships to be held in Tanzania from the 16th to the 20th of November 2022. Could you please get into this?
Yes, the team comprises of 13 male and 11 female swimmers. The Can Zone 3 is the swimming championship of Eastern Africa, and are staged every year, of which Zambia has been invited to participate. So there are 9 countries that are expected to participate at the 3-day event this year. So according to the Zambia Association of Swimmers, they are confident that the swimmers have prepared well and look forward to winning medals at the event. So the number of some of those swimmers are young, and some of them have been earmarked for bigger events such as the Olympics. So this tournament is one of those that is being used to prepare the young swimmers for bigger tournaments in future.
Now, getting into your last story. Finally, the Copa Queens friendly match against Colombia has been delayed due to visa challenges experienced by the team on arrival in the United States of America. What's going on there?
Yes, the team was expected to leave for Colombia on Wednesday night aboard Qatar Airways, but because of visa arrangements in the United States of America, where the team was supposed to connect, the team has been forced to adjust their travel to Colombia. They traveled last evening, and this means that the game that was supposed to be played on the 12th and the 15th may have to be changed in order to accommodate the team time to prepare and also refresh when they get into Colombia. So Zambia is using these 2 friendly matches to prepare for the World Cup that is coming up. And it is one of those games that is not going to feature some of the key players, such as Babla Banda, who has been stopped because she plays a professional football in China, but because of COVID-19 restrictions, she's not going to be available. And there's also Martha Banda, the picture that you earlier showed. She lost her mother, and she'll be attending the funeral, so she'll not be part of the team in Colombia.
Sending our condolences to her. Thank you so much, Mr. Suchila, for bringing us the latest news on the ground in Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning.
Stick around, because after this, we get into our economic news. Sunset News is a daily news show focusing on national headlines as well as international news. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, please contact sunset@synergy.com.na. Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.
Let's get right into our economic news. Glencore fined $5.5 billion for bribery across Africa. Mining conglomerate Glencore Energy UK Limited will pay the equivalent of $5.5 billion, equivalent to $313.7 million after a court found that the company paid $29 million in bribes to state-owned companies across Africa to gain preferential access to the continent's oil reserves. This was reported by the United Kingdom Serious Fraud Office last Thursday and is the highest financial penalty in the UK history, officials said. Now, Glencore, one of the world's largest natural resources companies, pleaded guilty to 5 counts of bribery and 2 counts of failure to prevent bribery as part of a conspiracy to secure access to oil in Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and South Sudan.
Now bringing us to the end of our economic news, a hospital union holds a public wage protest as PSA strike kicks off. Nursing and state hospital staff aligned to the Health and Other Services Personnel Trade Union of South Africa held protests on Thursday over the deadlocked public service wage talks. This comes as the Public Servants Association, which has 235,000 members, kicked off its strike in the public service on Thursday with several marches. The government maintained that the PSA action would be limited to lunchtime pickets and would not disrupt any public services. Now let's take a look at the economic indicators.
Let's take a look at our sports package brought to you by Ari Ohad.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news and starting off with soccer news. It is the Carabao Cup that continued in English football. It is a knockout league where all the leagues are involved, and so the stronger leagues, the Premier League, play against the First League and Second League teams. And big news from the Carabao Cup is that the lot leaders in the English Premier League, that is Arsenal, they knocked out of this competition. They lost at home to Brighton by 3-1. And it was coach Mikel Arteta that made several changes for this game. In the Arsenal team, he made 10 changes from the team that beat Chelsea just a few days ago. Other results is that Nottingham Forest, also a surprise there. They're 20th on the English Premier League at the moment, but they beat Tottenham Hotspur by 2-0. So Nottingham Forest also through to the next round. All these games, third round games in the Carabao Cup. Tough night also for Liverpool, but they managed to win on penalties. The Liverpool played at home against Derby, and Derby is 2 leagues lower than Liverpool at the moment. And also it was lots of changes made in the Liverpool team, but they managed to win 3-2 on penalties after the game ended 0-0. Arsenal lost, like I said, and then Newcastle and Crystal Palace played to 0-0 draw, and it was Newcastle that came through with a 3-2 on penalties. And also 2 big teams that played in the Carabao Cup. It is Manchester City that beat Chelsea by 2-0. Continuing with tennis news, it is the Billie Jean King Cup that continuing. It's a team event with 12 countries playing. They play 2 singles and 1 doubles, and it's been played in Glasgow in Scotland. And it is Great Britain in Group C that still have a chance to go through. Only the first teams of the 4 in the groups go through to the next round. Great Britain still have a chance because Spain beat Kazakhstan, and that means that if Britain can beat Spain now, they will go through as the best seeded team in Group C.
And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. But before we sign off, let's take a look at the highlights from today's broadcast. Prison break, 23 inmates escape from Moroni prison in Comoros. Twitter lays off staff at its only Africa office in Ghana. Kenya, South Africa to begin mutual visa-free system in January. Glencore fined 5.5 billion Namibian dollars for bribery across Africa. And with that, we've come to the end of the show.
Do remember that Africa Good Morning is repeated on our 1up2 website and our DSTV channel 285 and our Gotv channel 94 between 8:30 and 9 a.m. every weekday. I am Glen Rashipura.
And I am Diana Master, wishing you a lovely weekend.